Hello, good morning. Hello there, welcome. Welcome to DMU, but welcome from myself representing the social work department today. I'm here to present something and exchange question and answers with you around the MA, the Master's degree in social work here at University. So I'll be here for the next 20 or 30 minutes, depending on how many questions there are. If you wish to apply for the degree, there is information at the bottom of the screen. However, if you want further information that I will come on to talk about with some extra links, which may help you to think about whether or not to apply or in your application, I strongly suggest you wait to the end when you'll have some more web links and reference points to help you prepare. Okay, so I'm very pleased to be here and I'm ready now to present to you. But before I present, I want to introduce myself. My name is Lee Quinney. I'm a senior lecturer here at University. I'm also the admissions tutor. So if you do apply or you have applied, you may come into some contact with me at some point. So I look forward to receiving any emails or contacts with you at some point, or actually getting the chance to meet you, because we love to see people interested in social work. We have a strong commitment to equality and social justice, and we're a very good community of professionals who are very excited about our subject area. So that's me. I'm Lee. And I will now present some core information around the Master's degree. So as you can see, we're known as a TEF Gold University, which is around teaching, which means we've got excellent levels of teaching, which is a national award that universities obtain, which is quite difficult to get. So anyway, welcome to the social work division. There's quite a few of us. So what is social work? Social work involves working with some of society's most vulnerable citizens. And as a social worker, we hope you to have a significant impact on the lives of vulnerable people, but you can also have impact on the lives of communities as well, directly or indirectly. You may not always know the impact you've had on others, but they will remember you for your work, for your commitment, and for what you do in what is a demanding job, but a very rewarding job. It's an incredibly rewarding career. It can be challenging, but it's important to come into social with your eyes open about those challenges and embrace them, and actually do your best. But social workers work with individuals, families, and communities, and we always hope for positive outcomes for people and their lives, their lifestyles, and in their communities. But it's also about protecting people sometimes, safeguarding, protecting people from harm and abuse, and also helping people or supporting people, working with them to make their own decisions about their lives as much as possible, to live independently, take control over their lives with support, and enjoy having as much independence as possible and control over their lives. We act as advocates sometimes in supporting people to live independently. We direct people to services. We can signpost them to this service, that service, for example, for support, counselling, specialist psychotherapy, for example, or housing support, benefits expertise and support. There are many charities out there that we work closely with. We work closely with others. Now, social workers don't work alone. We always end up working either in an interdisciplinary team environment or multidisciplinary team environment. We work with people either in a team of professionals that are, nurses, psychiatrists, for example, dietitians, occupational therapists, community nurses, and others, support workers. That can go on. Depends where you're working, really. But there is an interdisciplinary network, so we can work very closely, almost on a daily basis, with the police, probation services, drug services, housing, hospitals. It's almost like a virtual team sometimes, but you build up that familiarity, and you work very closely to make sure things actually work in as much of a seamless way for people who use services, as much as possible, to always focus on them and their needs, not the organization's needs or the professional's needs. So we advocate for people, and we work closely with them at all opportunities. To if you bear with me a second, I think the PowerPoint's gone, so I'll just get mine up. Yeah, we work with. Oh, there we go. So we work with people as much as we can to look at the focus on service users. Now, the title social worker is legally restricted. As a result, it's you have to be suitably qualified and registered with Social Work England to practice in England. And if you go and register if you go and work in other parts of the United Kingdom, you have to register with the regulator in that part of the UK, and you have to go through a process of doing that. But you are going to be qualified to work in England. First of all, that's the whole focus of the course. It's an English-focused course. Only successful completion of the whole MA degree in social work, including both placements, will confer your eligibility for registration. So you have to pass all the modules before each placement, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And then you have to pass that and then move forward to the following part of the course, and then you qualify, and then we tell the regulator that you've qualified, and then you become a registered professional. You'll be able to search for your name on Social Work England as a registered social worker, and you'll see mine there as well if you checked it on the website. So moving on to the next slide, that's a bit about what the social work is. Employability. We are very fortunate at DMU to have such excellent partners and colleagues in other agencies, the practice agencies, particularly City of Leicester, local authority social services, and county, Leicestershire County. They take students on placements. They have qualified practice educators who can do that. Students have a chance to build up their networks throughout the course, but there's also a variety of charities and other independent organisations that you can go on placement with. But this builds up towards your employability through gaining fantastic experience, and you're supported through that. And it can be through a variety of different areas. Family support with children and families. So some of that will be around children in need, or some of that will be around child protection. There is some focus in services on older people, maybe even adult services, but you may not just be working with older people. Sometimes you will. Children or adults mental health services. Now, there are CAMS services, which is usually a multidisciplinary team of people working specifically with young people with mental health needs, and adults. There's lots of adult mental health services as well. So that you can do work in that area, and there are some services focusing on physical and learning disabilities, so you can gain expertise in those areas and gain employment. Drugs and alcohol misuse, adoption and fostering, asylum seekers and refugees. There's a growing number of specific service areas or practitioners focusing on those areas, particularly around children. But young people with offending behaviour, so traditionally known as yacht teams, working closely with probation, courts and police. There's a variety of areas you can work in, and this is not an exhaustive list. What the social work course does, this course is special. It's a traditional course that actually is meant to train you to work across all areas to start your career with. It's a generic course. So you'll have experience of understanding around children and adults and some of the other areas to varying degrees on the course. And of course, there are the placement opportunities that will vary between adults and children throughout the course as well. So we very much think about that holistic experience. And when you qualify, you can do something called the assessed first year in practice, and you can specialize even more if you're interested in a certain area. So, okay, so the next slide is on program outline. So you know you're going to be employable coming on the course. We can never guarantee you a job, can never do that, but we know that a lot of our students get employed by agencies they've come to be placed with, or locally or regionally in the area. You know, some areas some areas that I've outlined already. There's a real shortage of social workers. Okay, so it's important. It's important that you remember that. It's a good opportunity to be very employable. Okay, so here it is. Here's the program outline. So year one, it's like a countdown. This. The year one, it brings back memories for myself all those years ago. But you'll see from what I've been saying, there's a generic overview of subjects here. Children and families, working with adults, theories and methods. So how we actually do social work. Sometimes known as an applied social science, social work, in terms of the knowledge base and theory. How do we apply some of those theories from social sciences? And what methods do we use to actually employ those theories? Or what methods do we use to engage people? How do we get outcomes in our practice? How do we help people live independently? Then there's human growth and development. There's a fair bit of theory in that. You know, understanding from the moment we're born or before we're born until the end of our lives, how do we develop from a theoretical perspective, but how do we apply that knowledge critically, question and analyze those theories in terms of social work practice? There's also understanding professional practice, which is a module which really helps pull together all those modules before and prepare you for your first placement going into year two. But it's about pulling things together into a real focus on practice now. So there's also research methods. So early on, helping you understand a bit about research and values and social justice. Our values are really important to social work, and social justice is incredibly important as well. You know, they're areas all worth reading up on. We have skills development days. Now, we have separate days throughout the years where we just focus on development of certain skills. And that's all about, again, your general holistic development as a social worker. Some of that will be about development of yourself as an individual as well, because during social work training, we all develop as people. We learn so much about ourselves and others. So in year two, you start getting really, really busy in a slightly different way. The focus is a bit more away from the pure academic side of learning to the placements. So you go on a 70-day placement, which doesn't sound that long when you think about a calendar, but actually it's only Monday to Fridays. So it's quite a number of weeks, 5 days a week. You're looking at a few months. And then you come off placement one, and then students will then submit a portfolio, which will represent some of that integration of knowledge into practice from year one, and the experiences, the rich and powerful experiences they've had from that placement, and then that'll be marked, and then they'll go on to placement two, which is 100 days. So that momentum towards becoming qualified builds up, and you can get an even deeper experience on placement. And you'll be supported by a practice educator, and they have to be qualified to do that role. and they're specialists in helping and supporting students get the best out of their experience on placement. But there is also placement supervisors there for support and mentoring as well on many placements. So that's a longer one. Now, that is known as the final placement. So then during that year 2, there will be more skills development days, and there'll be a research dissertation. So as students, you're asked to choose a dissertation topic and then just undertake a small scale piece of research, and then you're nearly there. You're nearly qualified. Once that's all done and you've passed everything, you can register with Social Work England, and you'll be happy, we'll be happy, over the moon for you, and you'll be, part of that big professional family of social work. You really, you'll become a valued member of that qualified social work community, and the world's your oyster in terms of careers and employability. You can choose many different routes. So moving on to the next slide is about the course. So we've got a very wide range of experienced lecturers in the teaching team, variety of people who've done research and practice. I myself qualified in 1999, used to do a bit of teaching on the side, but then I became a full-time academic in 2009. But I went back to practice on 2 occasions between then and now. So from time to time, you may see lecturers do that to just build up their contemporary knowledge of practice. Some will, some won't. But what you'll find is that there are people who've come from practice recently in the team. There are others who less recent. Others who've got research experience. There's a vast variety of interests in the team in terms of research ideas, areas of interest. So as a student, you can say to your tutor, because on the course you'll have a tutor you can talk to, have little meetings with, get support from, and you say, actually, I'm really interested in this area. I'm really interested in child mental health. Actually, who can I talk to? Well, they'll point you in the right direction. You say, oh, okay, I know this person. Let's have a look and see what we can do. There's always someone to talk to about some area, and if they don't know about it, then they can hopefully point you in the right direction with someone else. So there are people who are very active in the team, worked in mental health, forensic mental health, children and families, child protection, worked around with drug users, refugees. The list goes on, actually. On and on. Older people, like all the list earlier. That's pretty much the team. There's quite a few of us. Anyway, I'll move on. So the course is full-time, and we expect you to be available Monday to Friday, and you need to really try to look at actually being available in the day to do your work on that on those days. What we do find is that actually students do need to think about how they're going to do work. We don't advise people working more than 15 hours a week, and certainly not on placements if they can help it. But we understand people have financial commitments. The teaching is spread across the week. We try to concentrate the teaching on certain days of the week, knowing that people have caring responsibilities, work commitments, or like to work at home. So we are very sensitive to that, but we have to be pragmatic about that. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Placements, as I've already talked about, you have to be available from 8:30 to 5:30 on those days when you're on placement. Placements will have their own arrangements. They may say coming at 9 and finish at 5, or have flexibility around the start and finish of the day. But generally, as a standard, you have to be prepared to be available between 8:30 and 5:30 if you're coming on the course. So if you've got childcare arrangements or carer arrangements, you need to try and figure out how you can make that work, or talk to us about it, about how it can work, and see if we can offer any advice or support. We have a dedicated placements team, and they are excellent. There is a lead in the team on placements at the moment. That's me, but it won't be from September. As I said, you're supported by a practice educator, and the majority of placements are in Leicester and Leicestershire, but there are placements outside of those areas. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Funding. Okay, so funding. With the funding for the bursaries, students can apply for postgraduate student finance. We advise every student to try and apply for an NHS bursary. Now, it may be available to students residing in England, but we're allocated, like every other university in the UK, so in England, we're allocated a number of bursaries, and that can change year on year. We don't have control about that, but the majority of students we had this year, but not all, I don't think all of them got a bursary, but the majority did. I advise you to look at the website for NHS bursaries and apply for one when you get on the course, and getting there early to prevent delays. So just they assess how much money you can have in terms of the bursary as on an individual basis. Some will receive just over £4,000 or around £4,000. It really depends. You have to apply as an individual. We have no control over that, so you have to do that. But by all means, look at the website before coming on the course and read. There's a section on social work. If you don't get a bursary, you can apply for the postgraduate loan, and that's how you can get some support with finance if you need it. So moving on to the next slide, entry criteria. Now, applicants with a 2.1 degree or above is the first bit of our criteria. As you can see, there's a couple of sections. You need to have a 2.1 or 6 months full-time equivalent. That's about 800 hours work experience within a social care setting or related setting. That can include voluntary work, informal caregiving as well. So it doesn't always have to be paid experience, but working directly with people who are vulnerable is the key to that. And with applicants with a 2.2 degree, a 2.2, we ask people to have 800 hours experience again and relative work, but only if you have a postgraduate level qualification as well as a 2.2. If you don't have postgraduate level qualifications already and you've got a 2.2, you basically need to have 12 months experience, equivalent experience. That's 1,600 hours relevant social care experience. Okay. And there are English language skills that are required as a minimum for the course, and that's level 7 of the IELTS. Okay, so moving forward. Selection events. Okay, entry criteria. So when people are applying for the course, you do your application, but you must complete a pre-entry self-declaration form and undertake an enhanced DBS disclosure check prior to commencing the course. Okay, this is all about assessing your suitability for social work at this time. Now, if you think there's anything that says you're not going to be social, if you think might actually make you look like you're not suitable for social work, don't assume until you've had your checks. If you, for example, if you've got an offending history in the past, it doesn't necessarily exclude you from social work. If you've had contact with social services, it doesn't necessarily exclude you from social work. Okay, so that's why the checks are done and they're assessed. Okay, so moving forward to selection events. there are a couple of stages. We ask all candidates to complete a work experience, to go a written test and a work experience statement. This is the really important bit of the application, really outlining your work experience, your relevant work experience. Now, I would spend time doing this because it's what we base a lot of our marking on for marking applicants' suitability for moving forward to the interview stage. So once the work experience and written test is marked, we invite applicants for interview, and then we usually with an academic, often with a person with lived experience of using services or carer, and then that's it. Okay, if you don't get on the course, please try again. If you do, that's great. So moving forward, is there anything else anything you want to ask? Any questions at all? If I'll just wait here for a minute or two, and we've got a few banners coming across the screen. One will be on the PCF, the Professional Capabilities Framework. We advise you to have a look at that. It's on a site run by BASWA, and BASWA is British Association of Social Work. So if you put BASWA PCF in Google, you'll get their site, and you'll be able to look at the PCFs, the Professional Capabilities Framework. It's really interesting to do that prior to entering the course or prior to applying, if you can, read up a bit on that. But also the bursaries you can look at any time. So we have a question, or is it a comment? I'm a fan of Bren Brown and her thoughts on empathy versus sympathy. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's important to actually show empathy. I think sympathy can only take you so far in terms of interactions with people. People appreciate empathy, and that's a good point. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, empathy and action. Yeah. Any other points or questions that people would like to raise? No. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll come on this. I've discussed these few points here that often come up. I've discussed financial support. How long are placements? We've discussed already. There's a 70-day and a 100-day placement. And the other questions are, how much work experience do I need? Well, I've discussed that already in terms of eligibility. So if you've got a 2-1, it's 800 hours. If you've got a 2-2 and postgraduate qualification, it's 800 hours work experience. If it's a 2-2 without a postgraduate qualification already, it's 1,200 hours. So the next question, are there any tips for balancing work, home and study? Wow, yes. Social work nowadays focuses a lot on looking after yourself, becoming resilient. Because if you can't be resilient, you can't do your job so well. And we really encourage people to do that as students, and to think about how to balance. So we suggest that balancing it all is to use support of your tutor, people around you. Think about the demands at each stage of the course and plan ahead. Don't try not to work too hard, too many hours, in the week if you can, but do give yourself rest time. There's got to be some pragmatism and realism about how much you push yourself. It's important to work hard at every stage of the course because it then builds on to the next stage. So it's we don't work more than 15 hours a week if you can. That's from all our collective experience. We've been there as students. If you start working more hours, people tend to take the eye off the ball and become exhausted. Yeah, it's important. Next question. Any more? Placement time is really important. At the end of the day, you're going to be practicing as social workers. So getting the right placement, we'll make sure you get the right placement that suits your learning needs at that stage of your progression on the course and your interests. We'll try to find one that's going to suit your interests. And the best way you can make impact and make use of placements is to network. If you network with people, get to know them, show proactive interest. in areas, maybe present something, some ideas to the team, you know, and get to know people. It's a great opportunity to get to know people. You have training events, you get to know a network of people, and it's all helpful for then building up a network where people become familiar with you when you then apply for jobs. They kind of know you a bit already, so it's kind of they know what you're like in practice a bit. So that's really can be helpful because you then know who to talk to for some support in placements as well. Helps you get through the placements for using that network. Impact on employer. Well, just work hard. Use your practice educator well. Listen to their advice. Use supervision. Always use supervision well. Reflect. Think about what's working, what's not, what can work better, and go into supervision prepared. So that's really important. Because if you use supervision well, you can impress your employer. You can have an impact on your employer. So how challenging is the course for international students? Hi, Cynthia. Thank you very much. Good question. Well, we have international students. We don't get many, but we do have them, and it can be challenging for some. It's really hard to give a really clear answer here because it depends on what experience you bring with you and what qualifications you might have as well. But if you bring experience and understanding of the sector with you, then it helps, particularly in the UK and especially the English context. So if you don't have an understanding of the English context, it can be more challenging. But if you understand practice, or you may have volunteered or worked in an English context or in a project that is international in your home country, if you're from another country, then that might be useful. So it's just, yeah, it depends. Yeah, so if you train, thank you, Cynthia, another good question. If you train as a social worker with us on the Masters, you qualify to work in England. So we get lots of applicants from Nigeria, actually, and we're still taking applications, Cynthia. Might want to, if you haven't already, now's the time. So remember, we're getting to the end now. Sorry for such a short period of time with you. For further information, do look at the capabilities framework. There's the website, but if you just put BASWA, PCF, you'll get it as well. It's a really, really useful website because when you go on placement and throughout the course, that is your guide for knowing where you're at different stages. Okay, and it includes pre-entry and entry. And there's your NHS Bursaries website. It's easy to find. Do look at it. It's open to home students, not international students. So it's something you should look at as soon as you can if you're a home student. What books, journals, or websites? Hello, Clara. Wow. Yeah, I've given you some key ones already. So the PCF, that's a definite yes. I would suggest looking at some of the smaller books on Introduction to Social Work. There's some older and sort of newer books. Look at Introduction to Social Work. Look at a website called we call it Sky, but it's actually SCIE. Okay, Social Care Institute of Excellence. That's an amazing website with lots of resources on it, which is free. Sky is a great website. If you're looking at some introductory reading around case studies, looking at issues, then thinking about some of the things we'll be looking for from applicants, that can actually help you. I hope that's okay, Clara. Any more questions? Vanessa? No? Last question then? Sorry. No? Okay then. Well, that's me finished. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you today. If you haven't applied, we'll be so pleased to receive your application, and good luck. All right. Take care.